Hello and welcome, my friend, to the next episode here, the Red Delta Project podcast and live feed Q&A here on the RDP YouTube channel. I'm your humble host, as always, Matt Schifferle, with another episode to help you be fit and live free, breaking free of the diet and exercise rat race. And this is the last episode of 2025 because it is December 31st here. 2026 is barreling down upon us like a runaway truck on a downward ramp, and we are gearing up for the new year. And I've got a lot of things I'm working on here at RDP to make 2026 your best year ever. I've just been spending quite a bit of time updating the website to make it flow a little bit better and a little bit more accessible for all the resources that can help you, like my books, the equipment I recommend, and the clothing that helps to show off your beautiful strength. But next year, I'm also going to be producing the big one, the big all-encompassing 100% Bible that is going to basically encompass all of the methodology, ideas, and approaches for Red Delta Project all in one volume. All the pieces are coming together. I started Red Delta Project back in 2009. That's 16, almost 17 years ago. And I've always looked at RDP like putting together a puzzle, figuring out bits and pieces here and there. Some of the parts would come together when I was writing things like bodyweight training for cycling and bodyweight training for martial arts and grind style calisthenics and stuff. And I always felt like the pieces were coming together to form a complete picture with each one of my little projects. But recently I've been working on a next book to basically encompass my methodology. But what I recognized in doing the outline for this is that it's encompassing literally everything I've worked on since 2009. Even before that, everything that I've done, all of my quick reads, all of my methodologies, everything that I've recommended, all coming together in one comprehensive, simple system to empower you to have the most control over your health and fitness with methods that are efficient, adaptable, and most importantly, effective. So hoping to get that out in the next several months. Of course, these timelines can certainly be a little here and there, but basically looking for the new Bible. I will keep you up to date here on the YouTube channel and through the RDP Instagram. But anyway, with 26 barreling down upon us, you may have your resolutions, you may have the things you want to accomplish, you may have the things in fitness that you are looking to change that maybe didn't quite pan out so well last year. And if there's one piece of advice that I can give you to drastically improve your chances of success, it's this, which is I want you to go into 2026 with a laser focus, focusing on as few things as possible to improve. Because this is usually when people come to me at the start of the year and they're like, okay, I want to lose weight and I want to build muscle and I want to get a muscle up and I want abs and I want to improve my golf game and I want to It's like making a grocery list that they're trying to do. But remember, my friends, that one of the things that limits your potential in life and fitness is that we live in a finite world. You only have so much time, so much energy, so many resources to go around. And you have a lot of these resources already being used by other things in your life. So when people say things like, oh, I don't have time to get in shape and I don't have the motivation, and I don't have the energy, a lot of experts will be like, oh, no excuses. It's like, what? You want me to just conjure up an extra few hours in the day? You want me to just magically have energy? It's like, no, that doesn't work that way. This approach of I'm just going to force my way into results is maybe okay for the short term, but it's a horrible strategy. Because remember that when it comes down to your habits and behaviors, motivation is everything. Again, I know the experts out there, motivation is not important. Motivation, do it even if you're not motivated. That's BS. 100%. That's like saying you should go run a marathon even though you have a broken leg. Okay, it's 100% wrong. You have to have motivation in order to consistently engage in the habits that will lead to your results. And when you're forcing yourself to do things, you're expending your resources to the limit and you're basically putting as much work as you can. The only way that's going to work is if the results you get are huge. and really, really big, because motivation is all about a perceived balance, a balance between perceived cost and perceived reward. So if you are spending and struggling and striving and exhausting yourself into the ground, the only way your emotional subconscious is going to see that as being worthwhile is if you're getting life-changing results, which sometimes you can, but very, very rarely will that ever happen. It's not going to be there. It's just going to be one of those things that you have to get a good head of steam. And that's why that laser focus is going to be the game changer for you, because it's going to give you a way to spend the most important resources for you. And so your time, your energy, your money and stuff. What is one thing that you can do to make the biggest difference? So don't think I'm going to work out. I'm going to do my work and my diet. I'm going to overhaul my lifestyle. I'm going to have all these habits and quit smoking and everything like that. That's usually a recipe for disaster, because when you've got all that going on, you just need to spend resources you just don't have, which means motivation is going to tank. Your habits go along with it, and then you're basically SOL. So when it comes to the laser focus, I want you to focus on one thing for a while in fitness. What's one thing? It's You could have a lot of things you want to accomplish, but when it comes to things like improving your diet, even focus on something there like drinking less alcohol. Doesn't even have to be eliminating it, just drinking less. Or it could be something like including protein at each meal. Or it could be saying, I'm just going to do push-ups every other day. Don't even have like a number, like I'm going to do 1,000 push-ups a day or anything. Just, I'm going to do push-ups Monday, Wednesday, Friday, to whatever you get. Because some days you're going to have more time and energy and motivation, so you're going to do more. And other times you're going to have less, so you're going to do less. That's perfectly fine. The biggest myth in fitness is that it only works or it only counts if you work hard enough. And that's absolutely not true. I personally have far better results and much more success now, even though I'm working at a fraction of the effort that I used to back in the day. And that's largely because, again, of that focus. When I go into the gym and I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to try to stimulate muscle growth, all I care about is challenging my muscular work capacity, achieving that single objective, because that's how we stimulate muscle growth in our workouts. I don't care what exercises I do. I don't care how many sets and reps that I do. I have my general frameworks that I do, like double tap training and stuff, but that's far distant second. I'm just trying to challenge my muscular work capacity, and that's the important thing. That's my single solitary goal. If I'm doing dips and after a few repetitions, I'm like, oh man, this is not really feeling so great on my shoulder today, or I'm just not feeling like, it's not quite the exercise. Something's off today. Okay, great. Get rid of the dips. I'll do my dive bomber push-ups. Then I'll do tricep extensions and chest flies. I'll just do something else. I'm not going to force myself to conform to a dogmatic approach or anything. It's one of those things that you want to work with your body, with your resources, not against it. That alignment, that's so darn important, because when you have better alignment, you get and maintain much better results at a fraction of the effort. And that is the key to your motivation. It is very much the thing that you want to dive into for developing the long-term progress. And if you can ignore that all you like, you can ignore it and say, no, I'm just going to work myself into the ground. I'm going to hit the ground running as hard and fast as I can. And that's great too. But know that sustainability will make or break your success. If you just go in trying to bash your head against a wall, it's going to end badly for you. I know, I did that for over 20 years. It never really works out. And that's why so many times, when working in the gyms, some of the big gyms that I would work to, people show up, and by 6 weeks into the new year, they're all gone, because they're trying to work their way to success. They're trying to go all in and spend as much as they can with it. And it's just not a good strategy. And the reason why we often try to overwork ourselves is because we don't know what we're doing, aka you don't have that laser focus. Remember, hard work is the refuge of the incompetent. It's the refuge, ironically enough, of the lazy as well, because they're not willing to dive into learning how to do things better, how to do things that are right for them. They're just assuming if you put in enough hard work, then you're just going to magically see results. And you will get somewhere, but it's going to be much less than you are bargaining for and getting what you want. Answer some questions here. Happy New Year, Matt. Thank you. Got me turned into calisthenics first many years ago, and I still come back because you're one of the few people in fitness scene that just keeps grounded in reality. Thank you so much for the kind words, my friends. I do appreciate it. Folks coming in, wishing with the Happy New Year's and stuff. That is very much appreciated because I've been doing this now, the whole internet and YouTube thing. I was one of the first folks on YouTube. I remember being at a conference one time and folks were walking around with these little video cameras and stuff. And I was like, well, what are those for? And it's like, oh, you can make video content nowadays. And I was like, what? Well, what do you do with the videos? And they're like, oh, there's this cool new website called YouTube that you can put it on. And I was like, what's YouTube? I've been doing it that long. I am one of those Gen Xers that's older than the internet kind of thing. So I've been doing this because it is so much fun and it's so rewarding to try to help as many people as I can. And knowing that I can help anybody in any way is always a humbling thing. So thank you so very much. What is the RDP? It's asking what RDP stands. RDP stands for Red Delta Project, of course. It's my little logo there and everything. And there's a lot behind that logo. That logo right there graphically represents everything you need to know about how to get in shape. Which I'll probably go into a podcast and video on stuff like that. But seriously, if you know the representation behind that logo, you know everything you ever need to know about getting in shape. And that's one of the things that I'll dive into a later time. But I created RDP, like I said, around 17 years ago. And back then, again, internet was just getting started. You needed a domain name that was unique, of course, but it also had something to do with what you were talking about. Well, I didn't know what I was going to do in fitness. And a lot of times the advice back then was, well, you should just use your own name for your domain name. That way it can be whatever you want. It always represents you. But on the other hand, they were also saying, but make sure your domain name is easy to spell and remember. I'm like, yeah, no one's going to remember Schifferle. No one knows how to, half the people out there can't even pronounce it. So that's out. But all I knew was that my approaches to fitness would embrace simplicity, efficiency, and some sort of a desire to it, especially then, but now, a lot of times in our fitness culture, we're told to fight our desires, to ignore our appetites, that, if it tastes good, don't eat it kind of thing. And you don't need motivation and all these sorts of things, which is completely wrong. And I wanted to highlight a way to say, no, desire, love, passion, that's the way to strength. And that's what color red represents. So the red delta represents all of these things with my approaches. So let's see, what other questions can I get? Man, if you've gotten into my older videos, I got one here. Your older videos really help me keep doing good work, sir. Man, if you've got the courage to look at my older stuff, that is the way to go. Because you've got a stronger stomach than me. Because, yeah, first video I posted was 17 years ago. I still had hair. I was filming on something that I don't think it even had 720p resolution to it. I think it was like 480 or something like that. So those old videos, man, whew, they are not easy on the eyes. That's for darn sure. But you can see if you go through the catalog on the YouTube channel of the thousands of videos that I've got there, you can see the evolution of my methods and my systems over the years. And it is kind of a bit like going through the tree rings on seeing those kinds of changes. But yeah, it's always getting better. It's always getting stronger. This is something I'm probably going to end up doing till the day I die in one form or another. Because ultimately, this is, the thing that's most sustainable is sustainability, and motivation is always about doing things for kind of like selfish reasons. It's one of those things that you do for yourself. And when it comes to fitness, if you're doing it for external reasons, that usually doesn't lend itself very much to motivation. If you're doing it to impress people, if you're doing it to earn respect of your peers or to be more attractive and hopefully get more positive attention and accolades and things like that, that's all great stuff. But if that alone is why you're doing it, that very rarely will carry you forward. Same thing with working on Red Delta Project. If I did this for fame and fortune, I would have quit decade ago. This has never been a very big moneymaker for me. It's never been a very big thing, for any sort of accolades and stuff like that. That's why I love hearing that I can help someone out there. But yeah, I'm not going to be a big YouTuber. I don't have the skills for it. I don't have the interest in it. I don't care. Like, I've got 16 people here on my live stream. I'm never going to have 10,000 people on a live stream or several hundred on a live stream. I don't have any interest in that sort of thing, because when things get bloated out, then you lose your message and your quality, and then things can get diluted and stuff. I want it to be a small circle. If someone can handle and has the fortitude to understand what I'm talking about, you're welcome into a very small inner circle. But I am sure as hell not for the masses. And I don't want to be for the masses. I don't want average. That's something we always have to recognize when it comes to fitness. If you do what everyone else is doing, you get the same results as everyone else. Go into the gyms, look at what people are doing. It's a lot of lukewarm, watered down workouts, no workout log, no real plan. Everybody's following some cockamamie fad diet or another that tells you that the body of your dreams will come if you just avoid seed oils or some BS like that. And, no attention, no focus, no discipline. Everybody's doom scrolling and stuff. Well, screw that. If you're looking for the one weird trick or hack to get the body of your dreams, I sure as hell am not the guy for you. And you can say whatever you want to my face, but I know you're going to leave because you can't stand the heat, so you're going to get out of the kitchen. My methods are direct. They are very disciplined. They require focus. And more importantly, they require you to make your own damn choices. And that's hard for a lot of people to do. A lot of people don't want to have control over their approach. A lot of folks are trained that you get success by being a follower, by being someone who follows the plan. And you can achieve something from that. But if you really want to be fit and you really want the freedom to live life and have fitness on your own terms, then you've got to make your own calls. And that is not something that I don't know if it's an American thing or a Western thing, but that's a large thing for a lot of people to swallow. Coming from someone who didn't like that back in the day. It took me years to be able to stand up and say, I'm going to do things my way, on my own, in the way I see fit. And that means I have to take responsibility. And that's scary, because someone's going to not lead you by the hand. I'm not going to lead you by the hand. I'm not going to tell you exactly what you should eat or how you should train and what you need to be doing. It's one of those things that you need to do things for yourself. Go out for the run because you're doing it to feel good, because you enjoy running, not because you're going to try and burn calories and get six-pack abs and maybe, that my gym crush will finally notice me and stuff like that. No, when it's self-sustaining, like RDP here has been for years, I don't care if I have 3 subscribers. I don't care if I've got, a mountain of hate mail coming into my Gmail and stuff telling me I don't know what I'm doing. Doesn't matter, because Red Delta Project has always been about customer number 1, me. It's all about me. It's all about satisfying my needs first. And whoever I can help along the way from that is great. And yeah, of course I want to help as many people as possible. But I've learned the hard way that sincerely trying to help people doesn't get you very far in life. Because especially in fitness, you can't get people fit no matter how much you want them to be. And that's the whole lead a horse to water kind of thing. Right? I used to bend over backwards for clients. is staying up late trying to write the perfect programs and worrying I'd be on vacations. I'm like, gosh, how can I get this guy to, be able to hit the gym more consistently and everything like that. And it wasn't until several years later, several of my mentors, it was weird. Like in a single week, several of them gave me the same message. And they're like, Matt, the bottom line is they have to care what their results are more than you. It's like if your coach cares more about your results, you're screwed, because ultimately you're the one who has to do the work. You're the one who has to make the decisions. You're the one who has to take the initiative and the motivation every single day. And I just can't do that. There's just no way I can do that. And that's why part of Red Delta Project is always about having adaptable approaches to fit your level of commitment and how hard you're willing to work. Because instead of having a program where it's like, okay, this is going to be really hard and really require a lot of you, it's like, just give me whatever you've got. If you have the motivation, time, and energy to do just a small little bit each week, well, then just do that. You don't need to do blood, sweat, and tears style workouts and make it a whole lifestyle and all that sort of thing in order to be successful. Just give me whatever you've got. Do whatever you're comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, you are on your own. You are the one who's got to make your own calls. I can give you ideas here. I can give you guidance. I can give you methods and approaches and programs and stuff in my books. But ultimately, none of that is worth a hill of beans if you're not willing to do anything about it. Because you're the one who has to make the decisions and the calls. And by giving you adaptability, through efficiency of my methods, that allows you to adapt it to your circumstances. So that gives you power. That empowers you to make the best choices for you. And when you have that laser focus, it's so much easier to do that. But again, you got to roll up your sleeves and take more responsibility and have true discipline for it. Because that's another thing that gets kind of screwed around in our fitness culture. People will confuse, or they'll talk about discipline as a form of obedience, and that's not what that is. If I gave you a program and I said do 100 push-ups a day, no matter what, and you forced yourself to do 100 push-ups a day, that is not disciplined, my friends. That is not a disciplined approach. You're not making choices and decisions very much on that. Yeah, you still have to make the decision to do it every day and stuff, but you're not in control. My program is in control, saying force yourself to do 100 push-ups a day. And even if it works to get a result, you're still obedient. You're still not in charge. And whenever we humans typically find ourselves following something that we're not in charge of, we tend to slightly rebel against that sort of thing. But when you make your own choices of like, okay, today I'm going to do 100 push-ups, and then I notice that the second day I'm always kind of tired and my shoulders are sore, so I'm going to wait a day. And then the next day I'm going to do 50 push-ups in the morning and 50 push-ups at night because I like breaking it up on myself. And then the next day I'm going to do dive bomber push-ups because I like the variety for that. When you start making choices like that, that's best for you, that's where you get your control. That's discipline. When you do things that's best for yourself, that's where the discipline comes in. And again, you have to do it for self-fulfilling premise. Not, oh, I think people will like it if I do this, or if I do it this way and that way and so forth. And when you are more self-motivated for that, for self-fulfillment, that's ironically enough where you often end up helping a lot of other people. And I've noticed this as a trend, in successful stories in business and in the arts and other aspects of success in life. Whenever you find someone who's like, oh, I did this thing and it was great and it made me fame and fortune and helped all these other things. It's like, well, how did you know what people wanted? I'm like, I didn't care what other people wanted. I was doing it for me. I was making this gadget or this device or other things because I wanted this. I wanted to solve this problem. And it just so happened that other people wanted that problem solved as well. And that's where I made my money or whatever. And that's always been the driving force here is I'm doing this for me. And is that sort of about your motivation? Let's see what other questions I can help with. So what can I help you with, my friends? This is always open to you for your questions. And What are you facing in the new year that I can help? Blast from the past here, holy smokes. Is push-ups and pull-ups enough video? Man, I made that a long time ago. So this is what I was talking about with the evolution, like push-ups and pull-ups enough video. Yep, started doing normal calisthenics. Now I could do 100 pull-ups, starting from doing first in 2 to 3. Always grateful. Very good. Send a video of that. That's very impressive. I knew a guy who could do 30 pull-ups as a warm-up. He would like talk about things, basically while he's doing his pull-ups. It's like, what'd you do this weekend? And he's just cranking them out like crazy. It's amazing to see. I'd love to see that if you could post a video. When you're looking at the year ahead, don't be afraid to plan. It's a lot easier to follow a program when you plan that out in your calendar. And show me your calendar, I'll show you your actions. Show me your grocery list, I'll show you your diet. Show me your closet, and I will show you your, what you wear for your wardrobe and stuff. When we are planning our environment, we are planning our habits. And again, it comes down to, well, I just want to work my way to it. No, you're not. You're not going to get there by blood, sweat, and tears. You can get some progress for a short period of time, but don't think it's going to pan out well for you. Build your environment to be conducive and in alignment with what you want. So if you're trying to eat healthy this new year, and you got a ton of processed food and junk food and not a vegetable or plant-based food or any protein in the house, guess what your diet's going to be like? It's, I'm going to work for it. No, you're not. Because you're going to eat what is in your fridge. You're going to eat what is in your cupboard. And if you're fighting your environment, you're fighting your schedule, you're fighting your situation when it comes to your equipment setups and stuff, good luck to you. Because again, it's going to take a lot more effort to make things well. And anything that requires more effort to get the same result is going to hurt your motivation. Any time that you can decrease the workload and the effort to get the same result, you're winning. Easier is better. Cheaper is better. Faster is better. Any time that you can get something with less cost, it's going to be better. And it's like, there are no shortcuts. No, of course there's shortcuts. That's the only way you're going to succeed in this. It's the only way. You have to have shortcuts because, again, finite resources, finite lifestyle. You only have so much time, energy, and money. So if you're running up against the limitations of your resources, then the only way you can continue making progress is you find ways to do it with less resources. It's the only option you've got. And this isn't a fitness thing. This is how all success throughout the entirety of human history has worked. You find anything that human beings have accomplished, it's because someone figured out an easier way to do it. So it was faster, cheaper, and easier. And that's what RDP is all about. Faster, cheaper, easier, getting things tackled. Band-assisted dips, fantastic. Doing band-assisted dips and pull-ups, 100 squats a day. How often should I train the pull-ups and dips? My plan is every other day, 3 sets, but 100 squats daily and so forth. So in general, when it comes to frequency, remember, more is just better. Okay, if you can do something more, you're going to be better off. If you can do 1,000,000 push-ups a day, you're going to get better results, unless it is compromising your ability to recover, because at some point, so much work just compromises you. And this is where some of the nuanced, again, for individuals comes into play. Some people can literally run like 10K every day and be fine. They're conditioned that level for it. So yeah, do whatever you want every single day. But if you notice you're getting weaker, getting tired, joints are getting a little achy, then give yourself more time. Generally, remember the 2 to 3 rule. 2 to 3 of things in workouts is generally a good base. 2 to 3 exercises per tension chain, 2 to 3 times a week for 2 to 3 sets. You mentioned 3 sets there. Yeah, see? There you go. That's a good general ballpark number that's going to work for most people most of the time. And that's what a framework does, is it gives you some flexibility with these sorts of things. It doesn't mean it's a hard, fast rule of what's going to get you results, but it's a good place to start for that laser focus on achieving that objective. A question on beautiful strength here. Matt, following beautiful strength, booking, having fun with it. At the moment, I work out every 2 days and do some incline walking on the days between. Well, very good. Fat loss, getting muscle back, I hope. Yeah, I don't doubt it there, my friend. You're definitely going to be on the right track there. Walking is one of those things that does wonderful things for mind, body, and soul, or even lifestyle there. Don't forget, of course, to make sure your diet's dialed in if you're looking for the fat loss aspect of things, naturally. But I think you're right on the right track. How long have you been doing it? And get me a question here on the live feeds or reddeltaproject@gmail.com if you have anything that I can help you with. Folks are going into the archives today. Saying Happy New Year, Matt. I was watching an older video today where you went into workout tracking. Appreciate more thoughts on this topic. My rep range can vary wildly from workout to workout. Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, that's probably an older video where I was starting to develop what I eventually called my scoreboard, my adaptive workout log that I've spent the past 15 years developing and used with all the hundreds of clients I've trained over the years, is that tracking literally can make or break all the difference in the world with your workouts. Because if you're not assessing your workouts and you're not planning on how to improve, you just end up running around circles once again, generally just going with the idea of like, well, as long as I put in the hard work, that's going to be successful. So with the tracking methods that I use, everything got a lot simpler when I started to implement the double tap training that's in Beautiful Strength and also going to be in the RDP Bible coming up in the next year, because double tap training keeps things simple and it helps that variation going back and forth all over the place. Because a lot of times if you have a lot of sets for a single exercise, you can have a lot of variation depending on 100 things. Remember, every time you work out, there's tons of variables that influence how much strength, power, speed, coordination, energy you have. As the old saying goes, you never step in the same river twice, because the river's always changing. Well, it's the same thing with your body. You never train the same body twice. You're different today than you were yesterday. You're different now than you were this morning. You're different tomorrow, and so on. And that's why double tap training keeps it a little bit more focused, because you only have 2 work sets. And that way you're not having so many different variables, because the more sets you have, the more variables you have. So double tap training is the first thing I would do if your sets are varying wildly. Getting a little more consistent with your programming might also be helpful, where if you're doing like pull-ups and rows and bicep curls, and then the next workout you're doing bicep curls, and then you're doing a different type of a row, like dumbbell rows, and then pull-ups afterwards, you're like, well, my pull-ups are tired. I'm like, well, yeah, you just did a pull chain workout before your pull-ups. Of course, they're tired. So if you make your workouts a little more consistent in that regard, that can help. Workout timing, time of day. Look to other variables that influence your energy level, particularly diet and sleep. Now, this time of year, right? I'm not even home right now. I'm in New York visiting my girlfriend, and my sleep schedule is different. I'm in a different bed, eating different food. We got the holidays going on. My diet has certainly not been on point. I've been drinking more alcohol. We use a gym in the complex here, which is a pull-up bar that's different from what I'm used to. So I go into the workouts when I'm out here, just be like, I'm just going to get whatever I can get, man. I have no idea what I'm going to be ready for, because I'm sure as hell not on a consistent footing from a lifestyle perspective. So I could have a good workout. Sometimes I've come out here and I'm just tired from the flight and everything. It's like, yeah, even half as many reps is a challenge. So you take these things in stride. Variations are just going to happen. But if you can get a little bit more consistency in things like sleep, diet, and the order of your workouts and when you're training, you're going to find that levels out. Plus with the double tap training, then it's going to be a little bit more consistent as well. Animal Life saying, are 4 sets enough for one muscle per week to build muscle? I know it can get us strong, but for hypertrophy, is it good? I found that it caused me less fatigue. Happy New Year. Very good. Uh, Shorter answer, yes, absolutely. In fact, there seems to be no minimum dose when it comes to the potential to build muscle and strength. There was a study I referenced earlier last year, and there was literally the participants in the study did a single bicep curl for 1 rep per week. And that was the workout. They literally just were like, one, boom. And that was the workout. And they did it once a week and they built muscle and strength. It depends on a lot of things like whether you're a new lifter and conditioning and all these sorts of things, sure. But is it possible? Absolutely, first and foremost. But let's get this more in, put the odds more in your favor. So when we say 4 sets, make sure they're 4 work sets. So if you, with double tap training, for example, if I do a set of pull-ups and I get 8 pull-ups, but then the next set is like 12, okay, the first one didn't count because I want to have the high capacity on the first set. I don't want to feel like I'm ramping up. That first one was more like a warm-up set. So usually when people talk about how many sets to build muscle, they're talking about work sets, not all the other stuff that you end up doing. Is you can do a half-hearted set of rows with very light resistance, and yeah, it can still work, but is it going to be as effective? No. So make sure that you are going into those work sets with a lot of consistent muscle tension. Tense your muscles before you lift. You have enough resistance so that you're challenging your muscular work capacity. Probably between 8 and 20 repetitions is a good number. I know you can do more. You can build muscle with heavier and lighter, but I like to work with that rep range. It tends to be easier for all the folks that I train to build muscle that way. And make sure you are pushing really close or as much towards failure on each of those sets as you can, because that is the more defining variable for building muscle, is challenge that work capacity. And since you're talking 4 sets per muscle group, make sure they're very comprehensive exercises. Like, bicep curls are a set for your pull chain, technically. But I'm not going to say, oh, if you do 4 sets of bicep curls a week, then that's going to build up your pull chain very much, your back and your buys and grip and all that sort of thing. So focus on the big, heavy stuff: pull-ups, dips, presses, squats, lunges, those sorts of things. Get the bread and butter techniques going. But yeah, you absolutely can do it. But boy, you got to push. You've got to really push for it. Question. I'm thinking of going to Turkey to get a hair transplant. What's your thoughts on what you think it will do something for my gains? Oh, it'll totally ruin them, my friend. Remember that if you want to get stronger, you get 10% stronger if you shave your head. You also get 10% stronger if you grow a beard, and you get 25% stronger if you do both. It's science, folks. Look it up. That's why all the power lifters are shaved heads with beards. This is an interesting question, though. There's actually something to pull from this, is that when we make changes on these sorts of things, we're going on travel, we're changing something medically, we're, the people who get on, the drugs like Ozempic and stuff like that, always understand that nothing you do is not going to have an effect. Everything you do has an influence on your training and your diet and your body to some degree. Everything matters. The question is always, how does it matter, or to the degree it matters? And then what can you do about that to help or hurt you? Okay, so, flying to Turkey, will that hurt your gains? Yes, you're traveling. And traveling is a very hard thing for a steady, consistent training. The biggest challenge, or the hardest challenge clients I've ever worked with, are those who travel a lot, because everything, like I was saying earlier, is just up in the air, hoity-toity. It's sleep is different, diet's different, time zones, you got jet lag, you got all sorts of things. You put anything through your body, hair transplants, drugs, different types of dietary approaches, everything matters. So when you make changes, I know you're probably just saying things in jest here, but if you do make changes and stuff, recognize that it's going to have an influence on things. And nothing you do is just not going to count. So recognizing that's going to happen and then take it in stride. It's like, okay, I went through this uh, procedure where I did plastic surgery or something like that, and doctor says I can't do anything overhead for overhead lifting for the next 6 weeks or something. I don't know. Just speaking uh, hypothetically here, it's like, yeah, that's going to have an impact, and it's probably going to have a negative impact to some degree. Anything that's going to limit your ability to produce force is going to have an impact. But take it in stride, because everything matters. The question is what and how much. Oh, very good question. So talk about the 4 sets per week. Is it for folks on gear or naturals? No, naturals I'm talking about. This is the big thing that, people often debate on, natty versus, on steroids and everything like that. These debates are largely a complete waste of time, and they usually hurt you in the end because they're taking out of context what you need. Like let's say 4 work sets per week for a muscle group. Okay. Natural versus juicers and stuff. No, that's not how fitness works. It's not like, oh, it only works for certain people. No, it doesn't work that way. Fitness always has an influence. Whatever you do will always have an influence. The question is how much. And there's a ton of other influence. We could say, is it going to work for people who work night shift? Is it going to work for people who follow restrictive eating plans? Is it going to work for new lifters or seasoned lifters? Is it going to work for people over 40? Is it going to work for teenagers? All these sorts of things. There's always things that people like to bring into the question of like, well, this is a different scenario versus this other thing. It's like not as different as you think it is. No. Is it meaningful? Yes. If someone's on gear, yeah. But it's not enough that it's like, oh, that's not going to work if you're natural. Because fitness doesn't work that way. It's always an influence. It's like throwing a rock into a window. It's not like, oh, an igneous rock versus a sedimentary rock is going to break the window. No, you're going to have an impact, whether you're natty or not. And if you've decided to go one way or the other, well, then there's your answer right there. If you choose to take steroids and you want to do 4 sets a week, go for it. If you're saying, no, I don't want to deal with that, I'm going to be natural. Okay, 4 sets a week, go for it. But it's not like that's going to be the defining thing that's going to matter for what you're going for. Following up with more, saying, currently doing full body workout twice a week. And yes, with 2 working sets. I used to do 3 sets per exercise. I noticed a great strength gains. What's your opinion? It's great for recovery. Yeah. So remember that the more work you do, the more recovery you need, because you don't need to recover from exercise. You need to recover from stress and fatigue. So if you have less stress and fatigue, you need less recovery. And as I've talked at length, recovery in many ways is kind of a bad thing, because the more resources you need to spend recovering, the less resources you actually have for performance and adaptation. And this is why a lot of folks will say, yeah, you don't want to exhaust yourself into the ground too much when it comes to your training, because then you need to spend more time and more energy and more calories and more protein and stuff fixing your body rather than building it up. Now, here's the thing that I would add into this with your 2 sets is 2 working sets per exercise, my friend. So in beautiful strength, I have 2 working sets per exercise, but that's not necessarily 2 working sets per muscle group or tension chain, the way we phrase it here, because I will do 2 sets, again, work sets, hard sets of pull-ups, then 2 hard work sets of a row variation, and then 2 hard work sets of like bicep curls. Okay, so that's all pull chain. That's all back and buys. And that's 6 total sets for the pull chain. But it's 2 sets per exercise. This is how double tap training works, to give you a lot of intensity, a lot of focus, but doesn't create a huge amount of exhaustion and fatigue in the muscles. And that way you don't need nearly as much recovery, but it's still creating a very strong stimulus for hypertrophy and strength. And you're absolutely right. It takes a lot less work for strength than hypertrophy, because hypertrophy is about challenging your work capacity. Strength is just about generating muscle tension. So you can successfully stimulate muscle strength with relatively little work. You just got to generate the tension, the high level of tension. It'll do it. But because you're challenging work capacity for building muscle, generally it takes more work to effectively drain the batteries of the muscle a little bit more, which is why you'll generally have better results with the with a bit more higher volume. But again, it doesn't need to be that more sets per exercise, just more per muscle group if you choose. And that's why the several levels in beautiful strength give you the adaptability. So if you have more time and energy, you can do more exercises. But if time and energy and motivation are low, you can do just one. Like today, I did pull-ups. I had 2 hard sets of pull-ups. That was my pull chain workout. Actually, I did a couple of light bicep curls afterwards. I just remembered. But for the most part, it was just 2 sets of pull-ups, and I'm done with the pull workout today. Yeah, that's more than sufficient for that sort of thing. And if I have more, then I'll do more. Another question, Matt, I just started overhead press with 25-pound dumbbells. I just seem to be so weak compared to the other guys in the gym. I don't know why. Well, there's a lot of things to consider. So when it comes to strength is measured by how much you lift. Always remember that technique is part of the equation. Genetics are also part of the equation. Training history is part of it. Sometimes you go into a gym or something, you see someone like my buddy who was doing pull-ups like they were nothing. And I was like, holy smokes. He's like, yeah, but you got to understand, Matt. Like, he was like, well, how often do you do pull-ups, Matt? And this is before I was into calisthenics. And I was like, I don't know. I do them like once every few weeks. And he's like, yeah, I've been doing like several hundred pull-ups a week for the past 40 years. And he's like, you're not going to be at my level, kind of thing. And this is, again, as a martial artist, that's the sort of thing. It's like when you've been like, well, I've been training for 5 years. I'm like, yeah, that's nothing compared to someone who's trained for 50, and so you've got that to consider. But yeah, genetics play a big role. Also, just technique and habits are there. I'm right there with you. My overhead press strength is terribly weak, very, very much not strong, and largely because I spent most of my life with a chronically elevated and protracted right shoulder. So my alignment and strength and stability in my shoulder was always pretty bad. So if you don't have a lot of stability in your joints, you're never going to be strong. There's just no way, because you're only as strong as you are stable. And so when I learned to finally get my shoulders down and packed, and I'm still even working on it to a degree because, I've had that thing for the past 40 some odd years, then that's going to be something that's just kind of a thorn in my side. And who knows, that could be exactly your case. You could be a technique thing. Are you packing your shoulders? Are you stabilizing? Are you stabilizing in your core? Are you able to engage your triceps appropriately? Are you grasping the handles well and having a radiation of muscle tension throughout your body? That's a big one that holds a lot of people back, is they're trying to do an exercise with a select amount of muscle tension. So if you're doing like overhead press and you're like, it's a shoulder exercise and you're concentrating on only using your shoulders, well, you're not really getting much engagement in your traps, in your triceps, in your forearms, and in your upper chest. But the folks who are really strong at a lift, typically at some point, they got that conditioning. They had a coach, more than likely, or maybe an uncle who was a power lifter or something. And they're like, yeah, I know this is a quote shoulder exercise, but you need to have everything engaged. You got to get your legs involved. You got to have your glutes involved for stability. Those sorts of things go a long way at producing irradiation. And that will go for helping you strong. That's why it always pays to have a coach to learn to lift. Lifting is like running. Anyone can do it, but it does take education to do it well. And yeah, you'll get the average person or the once in a million individual who is like, oh, I just started running and look, I won a marathon. Look at that. Yeah, that happens to the freaks out there with the genetics and stuff. But for the most part, we got to learn what we're doing. And if we think we can just go in and just start lifting things and make something happen, we'll make something happen, but it probably won't get very far. Simple question, can I change at 123 kilograms? Of course. Change is always possible, my friends. This has been shown very clearly in the science throughout history. It doesn't matter if it's fat loss, strength, coordination, muscle, whatever. We never lose the ability to adapt. That's why fitness works. We never lose the ability to adapt and change. So this idea of like, I can't change, or it's not possible for guys like me, that's just an attitude that's going to hold you back. Maybe harder, absolutely, as I was just saying, like it could be harder to get to a result, but it's always possible. And answering this, I should do some videos on this sort of thing about dealing with insecurities, physical insecurities, particularly like losing hair and stuff like that. And a large degree of that comes from kind of just embracing changes that come our way. As someone who was very much about my hair, the funny thing was I was insecure about my hair even when I had hair because it always had to be perfect, right? But when you embrace the change and for all the benefits it brings you, that goes a long way in being comfortable with the change and not being insecure about it. So here's a good point. And it's going back on the steroid natural thing, but steroids help you recover faster. So naturals, you suggest longer recovery times, not necessarily. Because remember that, okay, let's say steroids help you recover faster. Okay, so does really good sleep. So does a good diet. So does not working yourself to death in the gym. So does having good technique. So does making sure you're getting plenty of water. So does not subjecting yourself to needless stress like doom scrolling and negativity and stuff. There's 100 things you can do that help you recover faster naturally. So it's like, well, steroids can help you recover faster. Yeah, so can 100 other things. So do those things too, if you can. I mean, sometimes it's not practical, but the point is recovery will happen faster. But like I was saying earlier, it's not about recovery. It's about adaptation. So if you don't need as much recovery as possible, like with the lower volume stuff, then you can train more frequently because you just don't need as much recovery. Not needing as much recovery has the same effect as recovering faster because it's the same thing. You're getting back to your physiological baseline and ready to train again faster. So it does the same thing. So rep ranges here. Thanks so much. Recommended 8 to 20 rep range. Some people recommend 6 to 10. Can you advise on this? Sure. So here's the way to think about it, right? You've got 3 basic stimuli that we get when it comes to our strength training. You got strength, you got endurance, and you got hypertrophy. Okay. Now, when it comes to building strength, which is how much tension is in the muscle, lower reps, higher weights, because you need more tension. You're not going to have as much volume. So yeah, if you are trying to emphasize more on strength, rep range has got to be lower because you just need more tension. If you're going more for endurance, you go the other way, right? 15, 20, 30 repetitions or so. But if you're building muscle, you just got to challenge your work capacity. And that can happen along a huge rep range. You can certainly do it with 20 rep sets and stuff. The more important question is which is going to be easier for you to challenge your work capacity. Some people like going more heavy and burning the muscle out with heavier stuff. So other people find it's a lot easier to do that if they go lighter. And that's why the best advice you'll get about some things is going to give you a range. It's not going to give you specifically what you need because that's impossible for anyone like myself to know. It's for you to figure out. Once again, taking charge, doing things for yourself, and having discipline about it. But yeah, 6 to 10. We used to have that idea back in the day of like, oh, you have to have the hypertrophy rep range, and it's like 8 to 12 reps is hypertrophy. And then like back before I knew better, I'd be like, oh, I did 13 reps. Oh, that's not going to build muscle. That's for endurance. It's like your body cares. It's like one rep is going to do anything different. It's not about really the reps. It's about whether you're creating the stimulus that you're after. Heavier for strength, lighter and more time for endurance, challenge your work capacity, however the easiest way for you for building muscle. And what's important to you? Strength, endurance, or hypertrophy? And of course, you can get all 3 to some degree. It's just which ones do you want to emphasize on that sort of thing. All right. I think I got most questions. As always, folks, if you've got something pressing, hit me up, reddeltaproject@gmail.com. And it's one of those things I tend to get back to in, 24 hours if you send me a quick question or something like that. But, if you reach out to me on social media and stuff like that, I'm on social media so little these days. It could be literally weeks before I can finally see your question if you DM me on Instagram and stuff like that. So email is the best way to go about it. But I will bid you folks adieu here going into 2026. I hope you are going to go out and have fun celebrations for the New Year's. But thank you so much, everybody, for coming on in. And I will see you all next year. Till then, be fit and live free.